People, Sunday the 27th of March. What brings me here today? Well, the band Genesis played their last show officially last night in London. And Genesis are an important part of my personal history. And so I thought to myself, well, that's a big thing. Let me mark the moment in my own way. Several people that I know in the music community worldwide went to the show in London last night. So I have seen a couple of phone shots from the show. And apparently the last song they played was The Carpet Crawlers, which to me is appropriate that the last song would be a Peter Gabriel era song. I don't know what I would have chosen if I had been given the choice of what would be the last song to ever play. It seems like something grand like Supper's Ready, but again, that is not possible now because of literally because of their age. I saw on Instagram a picture where Peter Gabriel was at the show last night, and I thought that's very fitting. And it also makes sense to me that Peter Gabriel would just go and watch and not get on stage. It makes sense, although had he done that, it would have been an amazing moment. But it didn't happen. That chapter closed a long time ago. This is my Genesis section right here. It's like a part of it's really like a part of me. The Genesis and Peter Gabriel, they're right next to each other. And I don't play Genesis music much these days, but it's a bedrock of my background. Just right quick. Show a few things. So Genesis have some collectible records, and I don't have hardly any of them. But I do have an original stereo, not mono. Someone asked me about mono, and I don't want to get into all that because that's a whole head trip about how do you play mono records. I don't give a fuck about that. I have a stereo. This is an original. Genesis to Revelation. UK. Blue dot. Still has the original inner. And it has the original insert. And I personally love this album. Still this day, it's not treacly. It's not weak at all. They started out as songwriters, and I can hear that one of their main targets for their songs at this time were the Bee Gees. And the Bee Gees' very first album, which I have, is fantastic. And there's a real parallel in their sounds. But this is an original. The monos are the ones that are just crazy price-wise, but this one is not very common either. And when I found this in Kansas City. Oh, maybe it was the 2000s. When I saw it, I couldn't believe what I was buying. I checked it, and I checked it, and I checked it, and I double-checked the dead wax and everything, and that's what that is. So the first record I saw by Genesis as a kid in the stores before I got to hear them was Nursery Cryme when it came out. And of course that cover intrigued me, but the severed head was upsetting. Remember, I was a child, but I was intrigued. I'm here in Omaha, and this is really completely out of any sort of context that Omaha would give music, because here this is metal, hard rock country, Christian country, and so when I encounters in the record stores, I would just pick it up and just really, man, what does this sound like? Never heard it until the first album I heard, the first record I heard by Genesis was Foxtrot, the next album. This is the first album of theirs I actually heard, and it frightened me. Those mellotron chords at the beginning. This is actually a anomalous reissue that is not a gatefold, but it's on the pink scroll. And I've got a couple of gatefolds of Foxtrot. What I was trying to say is that at the time, my family is historically very religious, or a lot of religious, in the family. And so I was still caught up in a lot of the fear beliefs of Christianity that were messing with my head, that just didn't make sense, that I was struggling with. And so there was an aspect of the sound of the music plus the cover. And then when I opened it and saw the picture of Peter with his head, there was just something mystical, spiritual / religious, something in there that was mysteriously calling me in to find out more about it and about me. And that started me. Interestingly, the whole album, Foxtrot, there's a couple of dud tracks on here. Timetable, comparatively to the rest of the album. So I always thought that too. It's like, well, this is not one to play all the way through. Really important band. I've seen them 6 times. Did not get to see them with Peter Gabriel. Missed out. Saw them on their first tour without him, with Bill Bruford on drums. Got to see that. That was pretty damn good. But going back to talk a little further, Trespass, their second album. Some people call this their first proper album. Love this too. Just something mystical. White Mountain. So it really, from my perspective, this really is the end of Genesis. There will not be another tour. I can see how much difficulty it is for Phil Collins to get up and walk. I watched their final bows online last night. Also with their age, today is Tony Banks' birthday. He's 70-something. This is reality. We won't be going back. We're going forward. So if there could be maybe some sort of special event in the future, perhaps, where they get together, that's still a possibility. But last night was the last Genesis concert ever. It's heavy to me, personally. It means it's meaningful. And I also saw where some folks shed tears online, about it. It's historic. The band's music and trajectory has been that important to me, along with other heavy fans. So I wanted to mark that moment and say something about it. I got a few more records to show you. I had another good visit with a friend yesterday, a younger friend, who is doing much better these days. I just really love and support my friends, and I'm glad when they're doing well mentally. We had a great visit, which was enriching to me. And so afterwards, it was a nice day, and I just got to a point that said, there's something down at Homer's waiting for me. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the record store and get out of the house. And so I did. I bought 5 records. First I went to Grapefruit, and they didn't have much, which was actually good. It's probably some shit coming in next week. I should stay away. So I picked this up. I've never owned this on vinyl. It's the reissue, 3 LP reissue of Transient Random Noise Bursts with Announcements by Stereolab. Love this band. Seen them 2 or 3 times. I think 3 times. Got to hang out with Letitia Sadier, the lead woman in the band. I love this stuff. Yeah, it's that cross between krautrock and even the Beach Boys in a way. So I bought that at Grapefruit, and then Homer's had shown their used records update for the weekend, which I always try to catch online to see if there's anything for me. And there was. I called them even. When I said I called, I said, hey, is that still there? To hold it. Le Rallizes Desnudes. Blind Baby Has Its Mother's Eyes. Really kind of a legendary band from Japan. I think they only put out one proper record, but they have all these bootlegs. And this is basically a bootleg because Phoenix records are not official. And this is a numbered. I didn't even know this until I got home. Blue. And a sweet blue. This is a stoned mess. That's how I described it when I posted yesterday. Feedback. The drummer cannot play. It's not a drummer. I wouldn't even call the person a drummer. It's just this wobbly, ever pulsatingly growing thing of a guitar and feedback and some kind of thumping, every now and then some vocals. Very strange. This is truly rock and roll, as Julian Cope would say it. It's just so demented and so not at all concerned with anything conventional or expectations. It's kind of beautiful. So that's what I went back specifically to Homer's to get yesterday. But while I was there, I had noticed in the update they showed that they had this, Magna Carta Seasons. I saw that it was Vertigo, but I figured it was a spaceship. So I thought, well, if that's still there, I'll get it. And it was. I didn't open it up until I got home. I like Magna Carta. Now, this is a light, kind of on the light side of folk rock. I really like it, though. It's almost like fairy tale, almost. And some parts are even, maybe you could even call embarrassing, but they're not. It's like, for some reason, it just takes me right. They take me right along with them. And the first side is a side long, sweet. But when I got home and opened it up and saw that it's a Vertigo swirl, what? And what I paid for it? Now, this is not one of those expensive end Vertigo swirls. The ones from UK are the collectible ones that go into the hundreds. This isn't one of them. So Mark had it at a very nice, like regular used price. So that again, when I saw it in the bin and saw the price, I just again assumed that I'd get it home and it'd be a spaceship Vertigo. But this is another label that, if I could afford to, I would collect Vertigo. I just love everything about the aesthetic of the label as well as the design. And I really like this album. And I have another album by them already for years, Ask the Ages. Don't play it much, but I like it. Another record that didn't show up in the video, but was there. And I was saying, what? I've been after this album for years. Not that it's a great album, but it's part of my collection of stuff that I want. This is Capability Brown's album From Scratch. For several reasons I've been after this album. It's on the Charisma label. It's, to me, part of that golden era of Charisma. I have their other album, With the Lips. And it has their semi-hit on this, Liar. Three Dog Night had a bigger hit with it. But I like that. But I knew that this fit in with my personal aesthetic of my collection. It's like, been after a copy of this for years. Last time I saw a copy that I could potentially buy it was too much. They wanted too much for it. So I was real happy that this was there. It was like it was waiting for me. And the last thing I bought, and I love her work, I really do, Meredith Monk. This is Turtle Dreams. This one is really good. A lot of organ work besides the voices with Colin Walcott involved. This is really, really good. Her vocal, you know, she'd be someone you would want to look up and learn about her craft. Meredith Monk. Badass. Excuse me. Take another sip. Couple more records sitting out from last night. Minimal tech house is how this is described. Oliver Hacke, Polar, a 12-inch single from about 2003 on the Schallplatten label. Good electronic label. This one, even now, still, it just hits the spot. It sounds not modern, it just doesn't sound dated. It's very hypnotic and pulsing, and he's one of those people who, kind of like Ellen Alien, can set up repeating grooves that are like spirals. They slowly change, but they're hypnotic. And the timbres and the colors that they're using to set them up are just very, they engulf me. It's like they draw me in, and it's like, like food. It's like, ooh, I like this. That's one of my favorites. I've been saying that a lot. People ask me, what are your favorites? This is how to hear. Asking me, what's your favorite? I'll probably always draw a blank. So get it while you can. Played this last night, and as I was listening to it, it dawned on me. I have never listened to this album all the way through. And how long have I had this fucking record? Pat Metheny's Letter from Home. It's like, I'll be honest, he's one of those kind of artists that I have found myself taking for granted, that I know he's good. And it's a very singular voice. You always know it's Pat Metheny, and so it's almost like you just kind of like take him for granted and you hardly ever listen to him. That's me. I think that's probably true for other people too. So when I pulled this and went ahead and played it, it was like, damn, this is fresh. This is really uplifting. This is like I'm listening to this at night, and I could be outside in a clear blue sky. Beautiful. I played the whole album. There was a couple of, you know how people will have these lighthearted pieces that seem to be necessary for some part of the audience. I don't know why. Those are always throwaway to me. But most of this album was like, wow, this is really good. And I thought to myself as I listened to it, I have never listened to this all the way through. Isn't that a bitch? And when I grabbed that, this one came out because the records were so stuffed together. Excuse me. A Hungarian group. Metro. This is one of those things where, like, if I find it, I found this used. It was super cheap. Didn't know what it was, but it says, okay, I'm going to find out. And apparently this was an important group back in the day, the 60s and 70s, where they are basically trying to copy Western music. And that kind of makes it interesting because it's like, this ain't rock and roll. I think they do a Beatles cover on here. Or is it one of their other records I was looking at? This is not the sort of thing I'm going to be listening to much, but I'm not getting rid of it. It's a very curious item to have for me, I would say. So that's what I have today. Hello, everyone. Hello, family. Hello, friends. You know, you really can't just take life and grab it and shake it up and have everything all at once and just really embrace everything. But what I'm trying to say is, just in light of the way life is right now, what with war and ongoing struggles with COVID and political division, I just say enjoy each moment best you can. Try to have an up focus, because this is all we have is this moment. You know, you know, even if I were a younger person, I would be saying the same thing to that person. It's like, you're young and you're looking ahead at many years, potentially. Those years still aren't guaranteed to you. I'm older and I'm looking back a lot. I may have more years ahead of me, but I don't know. So enjoy the moment. Or recognize this is what we have, this moment. So maybe respect it a little more. Maybe respect yourselves a little more. Get out of the... separate yourself from the narrative that we are assaulted with by the media. Life is beautiful, and we're wonderful creatures. But we're just caught up in this madness. So make it good, people. And as always, share your thoughts with me.